Casmuel. My name is Mudiora Carrera, 2017 presidential running mate and a member of the Secretariat of the National Coordination Committee of the People's Assembly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight, where we would like to engage on the 13 reasons we have put together. I know there is way too many of them as to why Ruto must go. Well, just to set the ball rolling, it's clear for those of you who are joining us that you have interacted with evidence which indicates that the presidency, that is the duo of William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua, have lost the willful consent, public trust, favor, and legitimacy to serve for the remainder of their respective terms as president and deputy president. We've come up with a booklet that we've been sharing whenever we go out there to meet the people to get them to understand why Ruto does not need any more time. In fact, we've been beginning by telling them that when President Moi Kibaki was sworn in on the 30th of December in 2002, in January, when children reported to school, we already had free primary education, which they had promised during their campaign. So there are those 13 reasons which we have shared widely, and we would encourage you to share the circular, the poster, and there's even a charter. So, Buka, if you're ready, we will invite you so you can give us the preamble and we can get this conversation on the road. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and Casmuel, it's so gracious of you to allow us to use your platform to reach out to the people so we can continue to inject because as consensus has it, over 81% of Kenyans do not have confidence in William Ruto and the presidency, and they insist that it's time for them to pack up and go and let Kenyans figure out how to take care of the remainder of the term. So, Buka, if you're ready, unmute your mic. Let's get going. Wanjera, we have you queued in. Yes, Buka, carry on.
Thank you, Comrade Mudiora and Kaz. You have been injecting, so sisi tutaendelea kufinya tu kukusaidia, but this has been a greatest moment for our country that we at least have a chance to demonstrate that we are true patriots, that we love our country and we are willing at least to put our bodies in the streets, to put our everything else that we got to defend, our homeland, and also to remind the leaders that mainly made themselves to political positions through what we may call a democratic process, but in essence, mainly the billionaire class that have continued to lie to the people. So it was a time in our country to remind them that they are accountable to the people and not just advancing their own selfish agenda. And we have had several consultations because the question that we continue to ask is not if Ruto is going. The question that we must ask is now we have advanced even to deepen our debate that what will happen when Ruto goes, because it's not just a question of if now, but now we are ultimately sure that the only reason that President William Samoei Ruto and Gachagua are in power is not that they enjoy the popular support from the people, but only because they have the organized, weapons of violence against the people. This is important for us to acknowledge that President himself and his ruling party have lost total popular support. They have lost, to contain, their lies, even though sometimes after the 25th event. We know that the probably some of us were mistaken that their arrogance have reduced, but the arrogance of the president himself and his people have even come, back in full force. And just a few reminders that the dissolution of cabinet secretary that we forced President William Samoei Ruto to do, he did it in utmost bad faith and even returned the most corrupt people in his cabinet. So, and then look at, and we pity him a lot, the CS for Treasury, Mbadi. After he became the CS, the first thing he did was to meet the enemy of the Kenyan people, the IMF, economist, and to give loyalty to IMF and World Bank. While we have lost some of the finest, Kenyan people, we have lost some of the men and women of great of great service to this country. These fine brothers and sisters that we have lost in the streets that were murdered by President William Samoei Ruto and Gachagua, we cannot forget them. So we have the preamble that I would just want to say is that the collective that has been meeting to think through and you know and to help mobilize and reconsolidate the people's camp, decided to host this Why Ruto Must Go, to remind the people of the number of people, not just the number of people that have sacrificed themselves in the street, but to remind the Kenyan people that we must not get tired, because everything else that we have gotten in the history of the in the history in Kenya today has been a product of the struggle. So we have developed several reasons why we think President William Samoei Ruto must go now, and we are also reconsolidating because we want to also demonstrate to the majority of this country that we are up to the task of running this country, and not just a bunch of anarchists like some of the government officials want to portray us. That we will only want to go to the street to cause chaos, to cause problems to the people, but we are also saying that now we are consolidating the camp and we are ready to take up those positions without negotiating with them. In fact, we want to say today that President William Samoei Ruto cannot invite anyone that represents the majority of the people to actually work with him. Because working with President William Samoei Ruto is to betray the Kenyan people. So even if he touts positions for the youth, he only wants to use those positions to deflate the people's anger and actually continue, with this dictatorship.